You're listening to Midwest Mysteries, the channel where we dig into the strangest stories from the American heartland. Lonely highways, drowned towns, cornfields that never feel empty. Out here, the land remembers everything. Tonight's story is about a lake. On the surface, it looks like any other reservoir in the Midwest. Man-made, quiet, forgettable. But under that water, there used to be a town. And under that town's church steeple, sealed in darkness and silt, something learned to listen. Make sure you're somewhere safe, somewhere quiet. Headphones on, lights off if you dare. This is the drowned bell of Ashridge. And if you hear anything in the background that I don't mention, don't replay it. Just let it go. By the time I realized the bell was ringing inside my head, it was already too late to get out. The water was black. Not just dark, black. Thick, almost oily, full of silt and rotting wood. My flashlight beam pushed maybe 3-4 feet in front of me before it just died. Like the dark was swallowing the light itself. I could feel the church around me more than see it. My hands slid along swollen wooden pews, the smooth stone of the aisle, the rough barnacled edge of the pulpit. Everything creaked with the slow pressure of the reservoir above us. And underneath all of it, there was this low vibration, like the feeling you get when a semi-truck roars past you on the highway, but stretched out, constant, inside my bones. Then the bell tolled. It didn't sound like any bell I'd ever heard. No bright metallic ring, no echo. It was a thud that went straight through my skull, like someone dropped a piano on my brain in slow motion. The sound didn't go out into the water. It came inward, folding in on itself, pouring down my spine. My mask fogged with my breath. I tried to suck in air, tasted rubber and panic. My dive light flickered. Something moved up ahead. I thought it was Jonah at first, my cameraman, or maybe Lily calling my name. A shape drifted in the murk, arms outstretched, clothes floating like rags. Then my beam caught its face. The eyes were open. The mouth was open too, forever frozen in a scream I couldn't hear. The skin was pale and soft, skin that had been underwater for a very, very long time. Algae trailed from its lips like threads. I tried to kick backward, but something tight and wiry brushed my leg, like a cable or vine. It wrapped around my ankle, then my calf, tugging, pulling me toward the center of the nave, toward the bell tower. The second toll hit harder. My teeth rattled. My vision went white at the edges, and then, just under the roar in my head, I heard another sound. My own voice, playing back from somewhere in the water. Welcome back to Midwest Mysteries. Welcome back, back, back. But the echo was wrong. The way it said welcome, but it was like it was savoring it. My dive computer screamed a depth warning I didn't remember setting. The pressure around my chest felt like hands. I understood then. The bell wasn't just making sound. It was collecting it. Every word, every scream, every prayer. The rope around my leg tightened. I didn't have much time left. My name is Mark Dahl, and before all of that, before the lake and the bell and the thing beneath the church, I was just another small-time creator trying to make Midwest Mysteries pay the bills. True crime, urban legends, weird roadside attractions. If it was eerie and it happened between the Appalachians and the Rockies, I wanted it on my channel. I grew up in a little place called New Ashridge, Missouri. The new was important. People always stressed it, like they were trying to convince themselves they weren't living in the shadow of the old one. Old Ashridge sat at the bottom of Bethany Lake, a reservoir the state built back in the late 1950s. They flooded the original town, moved everybody up the hill, and pretended nothing strange had happened. But we all grew up on the stories. My favorite was the one about the bell. They said that when the reservoir was new and the water was clear, on certain mornings, real early, before the fog burned off, boaters would drift over the spot where the church used to be and hear a bell ringing from somewhere deep below. The county swore they'd remove the bell from the steeple before the flood. The old-timers in the diner swore otherwise. Kids said if you swam out there at night and dove deep enough, you'd hear it ring inside your skull, and when you came back up, something else would be listening with you. I always thought it was just a good story, perfect for an episode someday, when the channel was big enough to justify going home. What brought me back wasn't nostalgia, though. It was a drought. That summer, the Midwest shriveled. Cornfields went brittle, lawns turned to dust, and reservoirs like Bethany Lake pulled back from their normal shorelines like hairlines in middle age. News outlets were sharing drone shots of cracked mud where water should have been. Then one morning I woke up, scrolled through my DMs, and found a message from my little sister, Lily. "You should come home. The lake's giving back pieces of Ashridge," she'd written. "People are talking about seeing the steeple." Attached was a photo. Gray sky, brown, exposed lake bed carved with the ghosts of old streets. And in the middle distance, rising from the muddy bowl of the valley like a broken tooth, was the top half of a church steeple. The caption under the local news article said, "Bethany Lake levels drop to record low. Remains of flooded town visible for first time since 1959. I stared at that image for a long time. My latest video had barely cracked 5,000 views. Ad revenue wasn't paying rent. Sponsors wanted more true crime, less weird folklore stuff. Everyone online said you had to niche down or die. But I kept thinking about that steeple, about the stories I'd heard as a kid, and about my dad. He died on that lake when I was 12. His boat overturned on a calm day. They never found his body. Mom moved to St. Louis after that. Lily stayed with me through college and then went back to New Ashridge to teach at the elementary school. I told myself someday I'd do an episode about Dad's accidental drowning, but every time I opened the file, my throat closed up. Now the lake that took him was coughing up bones, so I booked a flight to Kansas City, rented a car, and drove back to New Ashridge with 2 cameras, a shotgun mic, and Jonah. Jonah Park had been my friend since freshman year of college and my unofficial cameraman since I started the channel. "Dude," he said, peering out the passenger window as we crested the hill that led into town. "This place looks like time gave up halfway through." He wasn't wrong. New Ashridge was a main street, a couple of side streets, a diner, a gas station, a hardware store, a tiny one-room library, and a Dollar General pretending to be a supermarket. Houses peeled their paint in the sun. A faded banner over Main read, "Ashridge Corn Festival, 1978, even though it was decades out of date. But beyond the town, where the land dipped into the valley, the view was different. Bethany Lake had shrunk. What used to be a broad blue sheet of water now looked like a great gray bowl, its rim ringed with muddy residue. Patches of dead fish glistened along the shoreline like discarded plastic. Farther out, the skeletons of old trees, long drowned, poked through the shallows. And there, in the middle of the emptied basin, the church steeple pierced the air. "I thought it'd be smaller," I said. "Yeah," Jonah breathed, already lifting his camera. That's a thumbnail shot right there." We pulled over at the overlook. The smell hit us as soon as I opened the door, a heavy, rotten stink of dead algae, fish, and ancient mud that hadn't seen the sun in 60 years. Wind dragged fingers of dust across the exposed lake bed, tracing the outlines of old roads, foundations, and cellar holes. It was like someone had scraped the water away and revealed a sepia photograph that had been hiding underneath. The steeple stood crooked, its white paint long since flaked away, leaving mottled gray stone and rusted metal. The cross on top leaned like it was tired. In the shadow of the tower, I could just make out the broken outline of the church roof, still mostly submerged. "We're getting closer," Jonah said, zooming in. "You can kind of see the... Jesus, is that the bell tower windows?" He lowered the camera a bit, looked at me. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. "I mean, going back to where your dad..." "That's why I'm here," I said. "This is what the channel was made for. Weird Midwestern ghosts, old secrets, and personal trauma I can monetize." He snorted, tension breaking. "I'll start rolling for some B-roll," he said. "You call Lily?" I nodded and pulled out my phone. Lily met us at Mom's old house, a faded blue 2-story on the edge of town, half swallowed by overgrown lilacs and a maple tree that leaned a little too close to the roof. She'd barely changed since I'd seen her 2 years before. Same dark hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. Same sharp eyes that could slice through my excuses in a heartbeat. The only difference was the tired lines at the corners of her mouth. "Mark," she said, arms folding as I stepped out of the car. "You look like a man who's about to apologize and then immediately ask for a favor." "That's uncomfortably accurate," I said. We hugged. Jonah introduced himself. Lily gave him the patented big sister evaluating little brother's friend look and then softened. "So," she said, glancing past me toward the valley, "you saw it?" "The steeple," I said. "Yeah, it's bigger than I remembered." "You never saw it before," she reminded me. "Not like this." She was right. When we were kids, water levels had never gotten this low. The old town had been just a rumor beneath the surface, a darker patch in the lake you weren't supposed to swim over. "Has anyone been down there?" Jonah asked. "Like, walked out, explored?" "Sheriff's department put up sawhorses and warning tape," Lily said. "They say the mud's unstable. Sinkholes, pockets of gas. The usual. Teenagers have probably snuck down anyway, but nobody's bragging about it." She hesitated, then added, "And, last week, a boy from my school went missing." My stomach tightened. "You didn't mention that in your text," I said. "I didn't want you turning it into clickbait," she shot back, and then immediately winced. "Sorry, that was—" "No," I said quietly. "I deserve that," she sighed. "A high schooler, Alex Moreno. He and some friends supposedly snuck down to the mudflats at night. They say he kept walking out farther than they did, even when they told him to stop. Then he went over a ridge, and when they came around it—" She stopped, looked away. "He was just gone," she finished. "No footprints coming back, just his shoe, half sunk, pointing toward the church." "Cops think he got stuck?" Jonah asked. "Sank?" "Maybe," Lily said. "Or maybe that's what they're telling themselves so they can sleep." I glanced at Jonah. We both knew what a missing kid meant for the story. "We'll be respectful," I told her. "We can anonymize names, keep the focus on the history, the legend." "You're literally holding a camera," Lily said dryly. "You're not exactly subtle." "And you still texted me to come," I said. She exhaled, long and slow. "Because if something is actually wrong with that lake," she said, "you're the only one I know who's stubborn enough to poke at it until it breaks open." She looked back out toward the valley. "And because," she added quieter, "I don't want to be the only one who remembers what happened to Dad." Silence stretched between us. Jonah cleared his throat. "So, maybe we start with interviews," he suggested. "Old-timers, local lore, your classic Midwest mysteries set up." Lily nodded. "You'll want to talk to Pastor Klein," she said. "His father preached at the old church before it went under. And Deputy Ortiz, she's handling the missing kid case." "And you?" I asked. "I have lesson plans to grade," Lily said. "But I'll meet you at the overlook at sunset. Don't go down there without me." Her gaze sharpened. "And don't you dare ring anything if you find a bell." Every small Midwestern horror story worth telling begins in a place that smells like burnt coffee, bacon grease, and old gossip. And Marty's Cafe fit the bill perfectly. Vinyl booths, cracked red stools at the counter, pie under smudged glass. I flashed my business card. Jonah set the camera discreetly on the table. At first, people were shy. They talked about water levels and climate change and how the fishing had gone to hell. But when I steered the questions gently toward old Ashridge in the church, the air shifted, and an old man in a John Deere cap swiveled on his stool. "You making one of those ghost videos?" he asked. "Something like that," I said. "Grew up here, heard the stories. Figured it was time to document them." His eyes narrowed. "You Dolls boy?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said. "Mark." He nodded slowly. "Your daddy was a good man," he said. "Didn't deserve what that lake did to him." I swallowed. "Can you tell me about the bell?" I asked. Conversation at the other tables dipped. Forks paused. That was the word that did it. Bell. The old man scratched his cheek. "My granddaddy was one of the last to leave old Ashridge," he said. "Said they fought like hell over the church. Government boys wanted it cleared out. Said they'd take the bell, put it up at the new church on the hill as a gesture. Folks down there weren't so keen on that." "Why not?" Jonah asked. "Bell wasn't right," the old man said simply. "Sounded off. You couldn't always hear it with your ears, but you felt it in your gut. Granddaddy said when it rang, dogs would hide under porches. Cows would go still in the fields. Kids would get nosebleeds for no reason." "Did they move it?" I asked. "Official records say the bell was removed before the flood. He gave a humorless smile. Records say a lot of things, he said. They took a bell, sure, hung it up at the new church. But it don't sound like the old one did, never did. Granddaddy said the real bell stayed where it was, no matter what the papers claimed. And after the reservoir filled, I pressed. He shrugged. First few years, when the water was clear, you'd see the top of the steeple some days. Then the silt built up, the level rose, and it was gone. But people'd still hear it, now and then. Foggy mornings, right before a storm, or right before somebody died. He stared down into his coffee, voice dropping. When your daddy went missing, I woke up that night, swore I heard it. He said, just one note, low and long, rattled the windows. But when I looked outside, everything was still. No wind, no water moving. Sheriff said it was probably a truck backfiring. He looked up at me again. But I know what I heard, he said. In the corner, a woman in her 60s, gray hair piled in a bun, snorted softly. That bell's been trouble since the day they cast it, she muttered. You remember that? I asked, turning. Lived through it, she said. Name's Marge Henley. My mama used to say we never should have melted that rock down. What rock? Jonah asked, leaning in. The one fell from the sky, Marge said. She took a sip of coffee, warming to her story. Back in the 30s, before the Dust Bowl really got its claws in us, a meteorite landed in the fields outside Ashridge. Big one, they said, left a smoking hole and everything. Farmers chopped it up, hauled it into town. Some wanted to sell it, others thought it was a sign from God, or the devil, depending on who you asked. And they used it to make the bell? I asked. Recast the old one, Marge said. Pastor Klein, not the one we have now, his father, said it'd be a holy thing, a bell forged from God's own stone. Said it'd bring the rain back, drive away the storms that ruined the crops. My mama said from the first time it rang, she knew it was wrong. Wrong how? Jonah asked. Marge's gaze went distant. She said it didn't sound like it was calling us to church, she said. Sounded like it was calling something else. A shiver traced up my spine. Outside, the sun slipped lower, turning the valley into a bowl of shadows. We caught Deputy Sarah Ortiz in the parking lot of the sheriff's office, right as she was heading to her cruiser. She'd gone to school with me, a year below, but the badge and uniform gave her a new weight. Mark Dahl, she said, squinting at me, heard you were back, making content. I like to think of it as digital folklore preservation, I said. Uh-huh, she replied. As long as you're not planning on trespassing into a restricted area for views, we won't have a problem. We're just doing interviews, background, that kind of thing, I lied. I did want to ask about the missing kid, though. Off the record, if you prefer. Her jaw tightened. Alex's parents don't need their son turned into a spooky thumbnail, she said. I get that, I said. I can blur names, faces, but if there's something dangerous down there besides just mud, people should know. She studied me for a long moment. His friend said he kept hearing something, she said finally. Said Alex told them he heard somebody calling his name out near the old town's main street. They didn't hear it. They thought he was messing with them. Then he walked over that little ridge and... She spread her hands. They swear they didn't see him sink, she said. No struggle, no cries, just gone. Any other oddities? Jonah asked, phrasing it carefully. Before or after? She hesitated. Phone's glitching, Shrayondi said. Radio's picking up static near the shoreline. A couple of fishermen said they heard music, faint, like a hymn, but all warped. Look, I grew up on the stories about the bell, too, but right now my official position is unstable terrain and kids making bad decisions. And unofficially? I asked. She gave a humorless smile. Unofficially, she said, I've told my officers not to spend more time than they have to near that valley. And I've told them if they hear a bell, they are to get in their car and leave, immediately. She started to walk away, then paused and looked back. Your dad's case file is still open, she added. Administrative oversight. We never closed it out with a body. There were inconsistencies. We can talk about that later if you want. My throat felt dry. What kind of inconsistencies? I asked. Later, she repeated. After you've done your folklore preservation. Don't go down there at night, Mark. I'm serious. We met Lily at the overlook as the sky bled orange and purple. Heat shimmered above the exposed lake bed. The steeple cast a long black spear of a shadow across the cracked mud. Sunset shoot? She asked, eyeing Jonah's tripod. Atmospheric establishing shots, Jonah said. Classic something isn't right with this town energy. I moved off to record some narration while he set up. The wind carried the smell of rot and something metallic. I held the mic, took a breath. Bethany Lake, I began, slipping into my host voice. To passers-by on Route 9, it's just another reservoir, a wide, shallow bowl holding back the sins of the river. But look close and you'll see the waterline scars creeping down its sides like fingernail marks. Below the surface used to be the town of Ashridge. Houses, streets, a school. And at the center of it all, a church whose bell was forged from stone that fell from the sky. They say the bell rang deep and wrong, calling storms, stopping hearts, drawing something out of the dark soil of the Midwest. They say when the pin filled and the water covered the steeple, the bell rang one last time and never went quiet. I paused, letting the words settle. Behind me, the breeze died. For a second, everything went still. No insects, no distant traffic. Even the low murmur of Jonah and Lily's conversation fell away. The silence pressed on my eardrums. And then, so faint I wondered if I was imagining it, I heard a hum. Not a note. More like the memory of a note. A vibration just at the edge of hearing. I froze. Slowly, I lowered the mic from my mouth and held it out, panning it toward the valley. Mark, Lily called. You okay? Shh, I hissed, holding up a hand. We all went quiet. The hum faded. Just wind again. A car on the far highway. A crow. Did you hear that? I asked. Hear what? Jonah said. Nothing, I lied. Probably the dam's turbines or something. We wrapped as dusk slid into full night. Lily went home. Jonah and I checked into the only motel in town. A squat, L-shaped building with buzzing neon and a clerk who looked permanently surprised. Later in the room while Jonah showered, I plugged my headphones into the recorder and scrubbed through the audio I'd captured. The narration sounded fine, a little breathy, but that added to the mood. Then I got to the moment of silence. I turned the volume up, heart ticking faster. At first, nothing. Then, there it was, a low, throbbing vibration, almost like a distant engine, but steadier, too smooth. As I listened, it thickened, layers folding over one another. There were voices in it, whispers distorted and submerged, threading through the hum like veins. I couldn't make out words, just cadence. Some high, some low, some clipped and panicked, some droning like prayers. My scalp tingled. Then suddenly one voice rose above the rest. Clear, close, right between my ears. Mark. I yanked the headphones off. My heart slammed so hard, it made my vision blur. I stared at the recorder, at the little digital waveform frozen on the screen. Coincidence, I muttered. Audio pareidolia. Brains see patterns in clouds, faces in toast, voices in static. That's all. I forced myself to press play again. Scrubbed back, listened. Silence. Hum, layers, but this time no clear mark, just that awful, almost voice shape. I let the file run a few more seconds, then heard something else that made my skin crawl. It was my own voice, not the narration I just recorded, but my channel intro, the one from months ago. Welcome back to Midwest Mysteries. It cut off mid-word, warping, stretching, then dissolving back into hum. I hadn't used that audio file at all today. It wasn't even on this recorder. Behind the bathroom door, the shower cut off with a squeak. I stopped the playback and set the device down like it might bite. The pipes in the wall groaned as water shifted. For a second, just as the hotel's ancient plumbing clanged, I thought I heard, from somewhere deep in the building, or maybe under it, something resonant answer the groan. A thunk, low, heavy, like the distant echo of a bell. That night, the dream started. I was back in the church, but not as it was now. It was whole, bright. Sunlight slanted through clear windows. Dust motes danced in the beams. People filled the pews, faces both familiar and strange. A teenage version of my father sat 3 rows up, hands folded. Lily, as a child, swung her legs, which didn't quite reach the floor. I stood at the back, unseen. At the front, a man who looked like an older, harder Pastor Klein pounded the pulpit. "And the Lord has sent us a sign," he thundered. "A stone from the heavens to be cast into a bell that will carry our prayers straight to his throne." The congregation murmured, eyes shining with fear and hope. In the rafters above, something shifted. The new bell, freshly hung, gleamed dully, a dark, almost black metal. It looked wrong. Too thick in some place, too thin in others, its surface pitted with strange organic curves like it had been grown rather than cast. The pastor raised both hands. "Let us ring it," he cried, "and be heard." A boy, a young Raymond, I realized, grasped the rope and pulled. The first toll shattered the air. People clutched their heads. Children cried out. The windows rattled in their frames but didn't crack. The sound didn't seem to go out so much as in diving into the floorboards, the walls, the flesh. I felt it hit me like a wave, though I was only a dream spectator. The second toll came faster, more insistent. Mouths moved in prayer, but I couldn't hear the words. The bell swallowed them. It drank every sound, every quaver, every sum, turning them into fuel. Then, somewhere behind me, a door opened. Cold air spilled into the warm church. I turned. There in the doorway stood a shape. It was more absence than presence, a distortion in the light, a suggestion of height and thinness. No face, but where its head might have been, the air seemed to bend around a black sphere, like a blind spot in reality. As the bell rang again, the blackness pulsed, synchronized with the toll. The thing tilted, as if listening. No one else reacted. They kept praying, kept clutching their heads, kept feeding the sound. The thing stepped inside. The floor near its feet darkened, boards creaking under a weight that didn't make sense. It moved down the aisle, unhurried, drawn by the bell's vibration like a tuning fork seeking resonance. It reached the front pew, lifted a hand. Where its fingers would have been, the air shimmered. Threads of darkness unwound from the bell, snaking down, brushing against the nearest worshipers. Their mouths opened wider. No sound came out. Their eyes rolled back. Their chests rose and fell, but there was no whisper, no suey, nothing. All of it, every noise they made, flowed up those dark chords into the bell. The thing turned its faceless head toward me. The black sphere at its center swelled. For a second I saw, reflected in its surface, myself. Older, sitting in front of a cheap microphone, headphones on, mouth open, speaking into the void. It sounded like me. It wasn't quite me. The bell rang again, louder, louder, louder. I woke up gasping. My hotel room was dark, except for the blinking red light on the recorder on the nightstand. The blink wasn't steady. It was pulsing. 3 blinks, pause. 3 blinks, pause. 3 blinks, almost like it was tolling. I reached out with a shaky hand and picked it up. The screen showed a recording in progress. I hadn't left it running. I always double-check that. The timestamp read 3:33 a.m. My own voice filled my headphones when I pressed play. "Welcome back to Midwest Mysteries," it said. "Tonight we'll be listening." The way I said listening wasn't mine. The cadence was off, too slow, too savoring, like a tongue testing a new word. "Jonah?" I hissed, ripping one ear cup off. "Is this some kind of joke?" Silence. His bed was empty, the covers thrown back, the bathroom door slightly ajar, light off. Cold slid down my spine. I swung my legs out of bed and padded to the door. "Jonah?" I called again. No answer. The parking lot light outside bled in a sick yellow glow through the curtains. I pulled aside the fabric and looked out. The lot was mostly empty, a couple of pickup trucks, Lily's car parked under a flickering fluorescent, and Jonah standing at the very edge of the asphalt, barefoot, staring toward the invisible line of the lake in the darkness. His posture was wrong. Too straight, too still. I grabbed my jeans, shoved my feet into my shoes without socks, and stumbled outside. The night air hit me, hot, heavy, full of cicada song. "Jonah!" I called. He didn't turn. As I got closer, I heard it. A sound, so faint I almost missed it under the insects. A low, almost subsonic thrum, pulsing in time with the motel sign's flicker. It was coming from my friend, or rather, from something just behind him. For a second, I saw, over his shoulder overlapping his outline, a tall, thin distortion in the night air, like heat shimmer, but cold. Then it blinked out, like my eyes had decided I'd seen enough. I grabbed Jonah's arm. He flinched, looked at me, blinking as if waking up. "Dude," I said, "what are you doing out here?" His face was pale, sweat beading his forehead. I heard it," he whispered. "In my dreams. It said I wasn't framing the shots right, that I needed to get closer, get under it, under the sound." His voice shook. "I couldn't move, man," he said. "I just walked." He looked past me toward the valley. "We shouldn't be here," he said. "We shouldn't have come." A distant, hollow thump rolled across the night then, so faint I wasn't sure if it was real. We both froze. "Was that?" Jonah began. "A semi on the highway," I said quickly. "Nothing else." But the highway was miles away. We stood there a few seconds longer, straining our ears. Nothing more came. I steered him back inside. Neither of us really slept after that. By noon the next day, the town had changed. Word came down that structural issues had been found at the dam. Cracks. Signs of potential failure. The county announced immediate restrictions near the reservoir. Roads in and out of the valley were barricaded with concrete blocks and police cruisers. "Perfect timing," Jonah said grimly as we watched Deputy Ortiz wave yet another curious driver back from the overlook. "We finally get a good angle on the story, and the third act location is closed for repairs." "We got a lot of footage yesterday," I said. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we can stitch something compelling together from what we have and call it a day." Lily shot me a sharp look. "That's not what you think," she said. "I know you, Mark. You won't be able to leave it alone halfway." I opened my mouth to protest, then shut it. She was right. Every strange hum we'd recorded, every twitch in Jonah's sleep, the old man's stories, Klein's warnings, the way my name had seemed to whisper in the static. It wasn't enough, not because of the channel, because of Dad. "I talked to Ortiz this morning," I said quietly, "about his file." Lily's expression softened. "And?" she asked. "The day he went missing, there were no boats allowed on the lake," I said. "High water, strong currents near the spillway. But someone reported seeing a small motor skiff near the center of the reservoir around dusk, right over where the church would be." "Dad's?" Lily whispered. "Maybe," I said. "They never confirmed, but they found a gas can and a coil of rope in the back of his truck at the marina. The rope was stained with something dark, not quite oil." "What was he doing out there?" Jonah asked. I shook my head. Ortiz said the last entry in his maintenance log mentioned unusual vibrations near Old Town coordinates. He'd written, "Feels like the water's ringing." Jonah rubbed his temples. "Let me guess," he said. "He went to check it out himself, alone. Because that's what men in these stories always do." Lily stared down into the valley. "We have to go down there again," she said. "Before they drain it more. Before they flood it again. Or whatever they're going to do." "The area's blocked off," Jonah said. "Police tape. Cops." "You forget who your little sister is?" Lily said. "I teach half their kids. I know the back trails." She looked at me. "We go at dusk," she said, "less patrols. We take one of Ortiz's spare radios. I can borrow one from the school's emergency kit. And we stay in contact. You get what you need, Mark. Then we leave. No heroics. No heroics." I told myself I believed that. The path Lily led us down that evening wasn't on any map. It snaked behind the hardware store through a patch of scraggly woods, then emerged on a narrow ridge that skirted the valley wall. From there, we could scramble down a steep slope of loose rock and dry clay, landing just beyond the official barricades. "Kids have been using this trail for decades to sneak down to swim," Lily whispered. "You didn't think you and your friends were the only ones who knew how to break rules, did you?" The sun was low but not gone. Long shadows crawled across the exposed town. The steeple stood like a finger accusing the sky. As we drew closer, I saw that the water around the church had receded even more. The pool we'd stood beside yesterday was now a broad, shallow puddle. Slimy streaks on the stones marked where the level had been hours earlier. "Damn must be bleeding faster than they thought," Jonah muttered. We walked the same cracked road, past the same foundations, down toward the church, but the air felt thicker. The hum, which had been a distant thing before, now vibrated faintly in my chest with every step. Ortiz's borrowed radio crackled on Lily's belt. Occasional snippets of cops speak about blocks and detours drifted out. It made me feel both safer and more exposed. We reached the church just as the sun kissed the rim of the valley. The building seemed to lean more than before, as if tilting toward us, listening. The carved stone by the steps, "He who listens, lives," looked almost freshly cut in the slanting light. The letters seemed deeper, hungrier. "How do we want to do this?" Jonah asked. "Quick in and out? Just poke the camera through the door?" I stared at the dark interior. "If I don't go in," I said, "I'll never stop wondering what's under there. What Dad was drawn to. What's been calling to people for 60 years. And if you do go in, you might not come out," Lily said flatly. I met her eyes. "I'll go," I said. "You two stay at the threshold. If anything weird happens." "Weird has been happening since you got on the plane," Jonah cut in. "If anything worse happens," I amended, "you pull me out. No arguments." Lily glared. "You have 5 minutes," she said. "I'm timing you. After that, I'm dragging you back to the car by your dumb podcasting hair." I smiled weakly and stepped into the nave. The air changed immediately. It was cooler but not fresh, more like the inside of a tomb. It smelled of mold, damp stone, and something faintly sweet and wrong, like spoiled wine. My boots slid a little on the slick, algae-coated floor. The water that had once filled the church had retreated, leaving puddles in the low spots and a film of slime on everything else. Pews lay at odd angles, some half-rotted, some surprisingly intact. Bloated hymnals sagged on shelves, their pages fused into pulpy bricks. A mold-embroidered Bible lay open on the pulpit, its words blurred beyond recognition. Above, the dark shaft of the steeple rose. The belfry was a square of deeper darkness. I couldn't see the bell. I turned on my flashlight. Its beam cut through dust and lingering moisture. As soon as the light hit the far wall, my breath caught. Names, hundreds of them, scratched into the stone. Some neat, some jagged and frantic. Layer over layer, climbing from floor to ceiling like a tide. At first I thought they were parishioners, but then I saw that many shared the same few family names, repeating again and again as if the same people had carved their names dozens of times in a desperate attempt to be remembered. Closer to the floor, older names had been partially wiped away by silt. But even there, if I squinted, I could make some out. Dahl, Klein, Moreno. My heart stuttered. "Mark?" Lily's voice floated in from the doorway, small and distant. "You're at 2 minutes." "I'm okay," I called back. My voice echoed strangely, as if the church were smaller on the inside than it looked. "I'm just documenting." I pointed the camera at the names, narrating softly. "On the walls, the congregation has left their mark," I said, as if afraid the water would wash them away, or as if they knew something was going to try to erase them, and putting their names in stone would anchor them. As I said anchor, my flashlight flickered. I raised it, angling the beam up into the steeple. For a split second, the light caught something massive and curved, hanging in the darkness overhead. The bell. It was bigger than it had any right to be, almost too big for the space that held it. Its surface was dull, not metallic, puckered with strange patterns like cooling lava. Dark veins ran through it, disappearing into the beams. But the worst part wasn't how it looked. It was how it moved. It shouldn't have been moving at all. There was no wind, no hands on a rope. But the bell quivered, almost imperceptibly, as if something inside it were breathing. 3 minutes, Lily called. "I mean it, Mark." I swallowed. "One more thing," I said, more to myself than to them. Beneath the bell, where the rope would have hung, there was only a frayed length trailing down into a hole in the floorboards. A rough-cut square, its edges splintered. Steps descended into darkness. The basement. I edged toward it. Every instinct screamed at me to stop. My legs moved anyway. As I got closer, the hum I'd felt before intensified, focusing into a tight knot in the center of my chest. I knelt at the opening, shining my light down. Stone steps, slick and black. Walls swollen with moisture. The staircase turned after a few yards, disappearing out of sight. The smell rising from below was wrong. Not just damp earth and rot, but a coppery tang, like old blood and metal. "Mark!" Lily's voice now carried a note of real panic. "Time's up. Come back. Now!" "I just need a quick look," I called back, hating how thin and far away my own voice sounded. A part of me wondered distantly if she could even hear me. I took the first step down, then another. The light from the nave receded behind me. The hum grew louder, crowding out my thoughts. It was like wading into sound, a physical medium that pushed at my eardrums. Halfway down, I thought I heard something under it, a whisper. No words, just the shape of speech. I rounded the bend. My flashlight beam swept across the basement. At first, all I saw was water, a shallow sheet of it covering the floor, rippling with every vibration. Then the beam caught something pale, half-submerged. A hand. It jutted from the water at an impossible angle, fingers splayed, skin bloated and waxy. Threads of dark algae clung to it like veins. I jerked the light back and saw that it wasn't alone. Dozens of hands rose from the water, some small, some large, some missing fingers, all frozen in that same reaching gesture. I stumbled, almost slipping. The beam slewed wildly and landed on the far wall. Mouths. That was my first stupid thought. The wall seemed to be made of them. Oval shapes pressed into the stone, some open, some closed. As I stepped closer, my brain finally corrected what my eyes were insisting on. They were not mouths. They were bells. Dozens of small ones, half fused into the rock. Some were brass, some were iron. Some were made of the same dark pitted metal as the one above. Meteoric stone, all sunk halfway into the wall like fossils. As the hum rolled through the room, they vibrated. A faint crystalline ringing rose from them, layered and discordant, just at the edge of hearing. It built on itself, a choir of almost sound. Above them, carved in letters deeper and more frantic than any upstairs, was a single line. "The more who listen, the louder it grows." I realized then what the hands were. Not bodies reaching up from the water. Clappers. Each hand was attached to a rod, sunk deep into the flooded floor, rising up into one of the small bells like a tongue. Ceiling, floor. It all blurred. The hum spiked. My light flickered. "Mark!" Lily screamed from what felt like miles away. "Come back right now or I'm—" Her voice cut, not faded. Cut. Like someone had hit mute on the world. In the nuclear silence that followed, the hum revealed its true shape. It wasn't a single note, it was thousands. Every voice that had ever spoken in this room stacked on top of each other, thinned and stretched and woven into an endless, wordless moan. And buried somewhere in it, faint but unmistakable, was my father. "Mark! Mark!" My knees nearly buckled. "Dad?" I croaked. The water at my feet quivered. Tiny ripples radiated outward from where my boots touched the surface. The wall of half-buried bells vibrated harder. Hairline cracks spidered out from around their rims, as if they were straining to be free. Above, somewhere in the darkness 3 stories up, the main bell shifted. Whether or not there was a clapper left inside, I would never know, because it rang once. The sound didn't travel through the air. It came up from the soles of my feet, surged through my bones, and exploded behind my eyes. I dropped the flashlight. It hit the water and went out. The darkness that swallowed me wasn't the simple absence of light. It felt deliberate, thick, like the air had turned to tar. In that blackness, the voices found me. They weren't whispers anymore. They were screams. My father's among them. "Mark," he howled. "Don't!" His voice twisted, cut short, folded into another. A woman's, ragged and furious. "Let me out!" Then an old man's muttering a prayer, a child's sob, a teenager's curse, all of them speaking at once, piled on top of each other, a cacophony of stolen sound. Somewhere far above, I felt, rather than heard, the bell ring again. The floor dropped. Or I did. Water rushed over my boots, my knees, my chest. For a moment, I was sure I was still standing. Yet I felt myself falling, sinking, being pulled through something tighter than any doorway. Mud closed over my head, thick and suffocating. And then, I was back where I'd been in the beginning, underwater, blind, the bell tolling inside my skull. But this time I understood something I hadn't before. The bell wasn't just a thing, it was a mouth, and it was hungry. Everything that happened in the next few minutes or hours, I can't tell, smears together in my memory like wet ink. I know that at some point, hands grabbed me. Real ones, not the pale, bloated clappers in the bells. Lily's nails dug into my wrist. Jonah's arm went around my shoulders. I remember being pulled, dragged, my boots scraping stone, slime, gravel, the world tilting, the weight of the air changing as we left the church's interior and stumbled back onto open mud. The sky was a flat, bruised purple. Clouds boiled at the horizon. Up on the rim of the valley, sirens wailed. Deputy Ortiz's voice crackled over Lily's borrowed radio, panicked and sharp. "Get out of there! The dam's giving! Repeat, get out of the basin now!" A deep, grinding roar rolled across the landscape. We all turned. At the far end of the valley where the concrete wall of Bethany Dam loomed, water fountained up in a white plume. Chunks of something, rock, flew into the air. Then slowly, almost lazily, a section of the dam's face slumped inward. The sound that followed wasn't like in the movies. No sharp cinematic crack. It was low and terrible, like the earth itself had been hit in the stomach. Water surged, not in a neat wave, but in a churning, brown wall that clawed its way toward us, picking up trees, debris, sections of old road. "We have to move," Jonah shouted, voice ragged. We ran. The mud that had been merely sticky before turned treacherous under the first licks of incoming water. My boots sank, suctioned. I yanked them free, heart punching my ribs. Behind us, the church shuddered. I risked a glance back. The rising surge hit its foundation like a fist. Walls that had stood underwater for 60 years had no strength left. They bowed, cracked, then collapsed inward, sending up a spray of black water and shattered stone. The steeple lasted a heartbeat longer. It leaned as if straining toward us, toward the open air, then snapped at its base and toppled. For a moment, silhouetted against the roiling wave, I saw the big bell in its gut. It was glowing, not with light exuli, with motion. The very air around it warped, sound bending it like heat. Then it plunged into the torrent, swallowed by mud and froth. The wave hit us like a freight train. I don't remember the impact clearly. A roar, cold, darkness, spinning. At some point, my hand tore free from Lily's. I screamed her name, but the water jammed down my throat. For a long, horrid moment, I was sure the bell would be there when I opened my eyes again, hanging in the dark like a black sun. Instead, I surfaced into chaos. Wood slammed into me. I shoved it away. My shoulder smashed against something hard. Part of a foundation, now an island. I grabbed it, coughing, spitting, dragging my chest onto it. All around, the valley had become a bowl of churning brown. Pieces of old and new Ashridge whirled together. Fences, furniture, road signs. Above the din of the water and the groan of failing structures, I thought I heard, just once, a single pure note, a bell, ringing not in joy or sorrow, but in something like triumph. Then the water surface exploded a few yards away, and Lily's head broke through, gasping. I lunged, grabbed her, hauled her toward the same shard of concrete I was clinging to. "Jonah," she coughed. "Where's—" Jonah surfaced farther out, flailing. His camera was still strapped to his chest, the little red light on, unbelievably, hilariously still recording. His eyes were open but unfocused, locked on the spot where the church had been. The hum around us, under the water, inside our bones, swelled. It wasn't just in my head anymore. I saw it move in the ripples, in the thrumming of the debris. Shocks of invisible vibration made the air shake. The camera on Jonah's chest jerked. For a second, the water in front of him flattened, as if pressed down by something tall and thin standing on its surface. The lens tilted up, pointed at nothing, at the air, at the place where, If someone were watching this footage later, their face would be framed perfectly. Then Jonah's mouth opened. Sound poured out. Not words. A sustained, ragged note that was halfway between a scream and a laugh. Around us, the hum responded, excited, hungry. Without thinking, I plunged back into the water and swam toward him. The current dragged at me. Debris slammed into my sides. My lungs burned. I reached him just as his head started to slip under again. Don't, I gurgled, seizing his jacket. Don't let it. The rest of the sentence dissolved into water. In that flooded second, my face inches from his, I saw what he was hearing. Not literally, not in pictures, but in the slackness of his features, in the dilation of his pupils. He wasn't in the valley anymore. He was inside the bell. Inside, a darkness filled with the voices of everyone who'd ever listened without understanding. It wanted him to bring that sound back up, to carry it into the world through his camera, through our channel, through every speaker it could ride. No, I thought, or maybe I shouted. Underwater, it didn't matter. I slammed my free hand down onto the emergency release buckle of his camera rig. The strap snapped. The camera tumbled away, spinning, vanishing into the swirling mess. The hum spiked once in protest. A child denied a toy, then shifted, focusing somewhere else, somewhere deeper, somewhere it could wait. We broke the surface together, choking, clawing for purchase on the same shattered slab Lily clung to. Above, on the rim of the valley, figures ran. Sirens wailed. A helicopter beat the air. The wave rolled on, spent but still dangerous, slamming into the far side and surging back in confused, smaller swells. We held on. We did not speak. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't be swallowed. The official story in the end went like this. A previously undetected flaw in Bethany Dam's concrete, exacerbated by drought and shifting water levels, led to a partial structural failure. The reservoir drained catastrophically into the valley, destroying what remained of old Ashridge's ruins and causing minor flooding downstream. 3 people were injured. One, me, according to the paperwork, suffered a severe concussion and hypoxia. He claimed for a while that he'd seen and heard impossible things under the church. But trauma, doctors said, does strange things to memory. Deputy Ortiz wrote the cleanest report she could. Pastor Klein led another memorial service. This time, for all of old Ashridge, finally and completely drowned. Bethany Lake refilled, but never to its former level. The steeple is gone. The church is gone. Every visible trace of the bell is gone. But sound doesn't need a body to travel. Months later, back in my small apartment 4 hours away, I sat at my desk and opened the last surviving SD card from that trip. Most of our footage had been ruined, waterlogged, corrupted, or simply lost in the flood. The only thing that remained intact was the audio from the early days. Interviews, ambient sounds, my narration from the overlook. I listened. Some files were normal, others had glitches, strange hums, subtle warps. A few had moments where my own voice bled in from recordings I'd made months before. In one clip, the one I'd taken outside the motel at 3:33 a.m., I heard my intro again. Welcome back to Midwest Mysteries, it said. Tonight we'll be listening. Behind it, under it, threading through every syllable, was that familiar, nauseating vibration. It wasn't as strong as in the valley, but it was there. I sat for a long time, fingers hovering over the delete key. If I erased it, that would be the safest choice. For me, for Jonah, for Lily, for whoever stumbled across Midwest Mysteries on a sleepless night and decided to let my voice into their headphones. But if I erased it, no one would ever believe what happened. The bell would just be a story again, a ghost unrecorded, a mystery unsolved. I thought of my father out on that lake, hearing something in the water that no one else heard. He hadn't had a way to show people. I did. In the end, I compromised. I cut the worst of it, the most obvious pulses, the moments where the hum spiked so hard it made my speakers buzz, but I couldn't bring myself to scrub it all. I layered music over it. I told myself that would mask it, make it harmless, just an atmospheric bed under my storytelling. I rendered the file. I uploaded it. I scheduled it to premiere on a Friday night, under the title you saw when you clicked this video. And then I waited. The comments started slow like they always do. Love your channel, man. This one gave me chills. The part where the dam broke? Damn. Then other comments trickled in. Anyone else hear that low hum around 27:13? My headphones started buzzing. Is it just me or does it sound like someone whispers Mark's name at 32:05? I paused at 1:03:15 and there's this weird frequency line in my audio software. It looks like a bell waveform. WTF. I told myself it was viral marketing. The kind of organic creepypasta every horror creator dreams of. Then I got an email. No sender, no subject, just an audio attachment in a single line of text. You shouldn't have let them listen. My pulse hammered as I clicked and play. At first there was nothing. Then faintly, as if from very far away, I heard my own voice. Welcome back to Midwest Mysteries, it said. Welcome back, back, back. Each echo lengthened, deepened, until it wasn't my voice anymore. The last back came out thick and slow, like someone whose throat wasn't built for human speech trying on the word. Under it all, the hum, not as faint this time, stronger, hungrier. I closed the file. I thought about taking the video down. But here's the thing, if you've made it this far into the story, if you're still listening to me right now, whether in your car, in your bed, in your headphones in the dark, then some part of you wanted to hear this. Something in you leaned in when the bell tolled in the opening, when the old man in the diner talked about hearing it on the night my dad disappeared. When Jonah walked to the edge of the motel lot in his sleep, you listened. And sound is a funny thing. It doesn't just move through the air, it moves through you, leaves an impression, a resonance or swim. I don't know how much of the bell I brought back. I don't know if cutting and layering and storytelling diluted it enough to make it harmless. I just know that sometimes when I upload now, I hear a second cursor move across my audio timeline, a second set of ears, a presence leaning over my shoulder, its attention heavy and cold. And when I close my eyes at night, in that thin slice of time between waking and sleep, I hear a single low-note ring somewhere deep under the floorboards. One toll, waiting for an answer. You've been listening to The Drowned Bell of Ashridge, an original horror story here on Midwest Mysteries. If you heard anything in the background that I didn't mention, don't scroll back. Don't put it on a loop. Just let it fade. If you enjoyed this story and want more long-form horror from the American Midwest, drowned towns, abandoned churches, lonely highways, make sure you subscribe to Midwest Mysteries, hit the like button, and share this with someone who listens to scary stories late at night. It helps more than you know. And the more who listen, I'll see you in the next mystery. Good night, and sleep with the windows closed.